Hello everyone, welcome to the new week of chess content on the Chess Club Pobednik English channel. In today's video we will talk about the Women's Speed Chess Championship that was concluded last week. The final was played just one day before the Speed Chess Championship live final in Paris. We had Zhu Wenjun, the reigning women's world champion in classical chess, playing against the talented Polina Shuvalova, still just an international master, but she already has a couple of grandmaster norms and certainly the strength of grandmaster, so it's just a matter of time when she will finally get her title officially. In this match, Zhu Wenjun won by 12.5 against 9.5 and became the champion of the event. I decided to show a couple of games or maybe just excerpts to show some nice tactical motives. So we start with game 1. This was played with a time control 5+1. So the Speed Chess Championship formats are 75 minutes with 5+1, 50 minutes of 3+1 games, and 25 minutes of 1+1 games. This is slightly shorter than in the Speed Chess Championship in Paris, which had, for example, 90 minutes of 5+1 games. This is a little unusual to take back with the knight. Usually you take with the pawn and play the Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Like this, we have something called semi-Tarrasch with via the transposition. So this is a well-known opening where black exchanges two pairs of minor pieces, so just to make it easier for him to get out from the opening. White has a couple of plans with the bishop here. It can play bishop e2, bishop d3, which was very common earlier, and now the most popular probably bishop c4, which was also played in this game. b6, of course black is opening the space for the bishop. It's also possible to play knight c6 and maybe bishop d7 later, but this is a rare spot for the bishop here. Actually, we prefer to have this file open for the queen or for the rook and not to be obstructed by bishop. So it's more natural to open up with b6. Okay, so b6, d5. Usually I would expect to see here a castle, and then rook fd1, rook ac1, or rook fe1, rook ad1, something like that. But this is probably something of a new theoretical development that white decides immediately to determine the structure in the center. You can notice that white king is still in the center, so this is some kind of a chance for black if you can quickly open up the files, give some checks, maybe disturb the white king, but we'll see if that's possible. Okay, so if you don't take here, black will take and take here. So now this is what we were talking about. So check against the king, and probably black will soon be slightly better. So you have to take on a6. So you lost some time with the bishop. You played twice to c4 and then took on a6, but black knight would prefer to be maybe on d7, f6, and not on a6. But luckily for black, the knight can find a great outpost on the c5 square, which is not possible because the pawn advanced to d5. So black will not complain much about this. White decides to push d6 and to create a passed pawn. This kind of moves is very committal because you can either make a passed pawn and just push it all the way to the end and make a new queen, or it can become a weakness which will drop off later in the game if black can somehow surround it with her heavy pieces and just pick it up. So this is a very brave decision by Wenjun. And now she plays e5, of course, to support the pawn on d6. Black immediately challenged this decision, and she wants to undermine the support of the d6 pawn, which is smart. The question mark here is probably because the engine thinks it's maybe a little bit too fast. Maybe she wants to play rook c8 first, and then knight d7 and f6, and maybe to take back with the knight later. Okay, so e5, black played f6. And here white made a mistake. She took on f6, and this is not ideal because she's kind of losing a tempo. Here she could have played castle, and then if black takes on e5, what else she can do? I mean, this was the point of her play. You take with a knight, and now if queen f6, you already are on time with f4 or rook fe1. And here is white is having a very solid advantage thanks to this strong outpost on e5 and the passed pawn on d6. Okay, let's go back. We will compare now the position with when she took it. So ef6, queen f6, and now there is no time for knight e5. So she castled, and she's basically one move behind. Now the knight will already be on e5. So that was the issue with this move order. Now rook a8. Of course, it's very natural to start pressing the d6 pawn now, particularly because it doesn't have any pawn protectors left after the e5 pawn was exchanged. White is doing the same. She's getting behind her pawn, rook fe1, and now rook fd8. A quite natural move, which probably 99% of us would play without a second thought. But actually, this move is a mistake, and we will see soon why. Better for black was to play knight b7. And the point of this move is that now, if white plays knight e5, she will simply take this pawn with a rook. But with the game continuation, what happens is that now white can play knight e5. And this is actually, in my opinion, this is a brilliant maneuver by white. She's just in time to protect. I mean, the pawn will drop, but she will get the most out of it. And otherwise, the pawn would just take him for nothing, just picked up. Now, after rook d6, she decides to sacrifice the queen for two rooks. It's not really a sacrifice, it's kind of an equal exchange, but we always, when we give up a queen for other pieces, we like to call it sacrifice. Actually, black also collected a pawn, so it's 11 units against 9 or 10, whatever you want to have your queen board. But the additional advantage for white with this exchange is now that the king is kind of in danger. You're already threatening checkmate. So I mean, after in some other circumstances, when the rook maybe is on d1, so you can play next f4, and black cannot take the pawn because checkmate is coming down. And if she doesn't do anything, then it will be other rook on d1, and now rook d8 is possible. So the weakness of the black king gives a good compensation to white for the 1 or 2 units deficit. So black has to open the Luft. And white does the same. I don't think this move deserves a question mark because the computer is actually suggesting g3 as better. The difference is only maybe that when the pawn is on a3 or on h3, in some situations far ahead, if the other rook gets somewhere into attack or to chase the black king, black has some sort of perpetual combination with queen coming to f4, checks on c1, and then king has only two squares, h2 and g1, and f4 c1 gives a perpetual. And if you ever push a g3 pawn, then to protect from queen f4, then queen f2 check. So if f2 is not protected, if this rook is not on the back rank, if f4 is not covered, then this can be some sort of resource for black to save the game. Too many errors now on the board. It starts to look like Hikaru Nakamura analysis. So let's go back. h3, king h7. This is a good move. She goes away from the checks on d8. Rook d4. I guess the idea is to push f4. And so just a rook will protect the pawn. Queen f5. She probably wants to infiltrate on c2 and just to threaten the pawn. Rook e2, which computer doesn't like. I'm not sure why. It looks logical move to me. Okay, so b5 and now g4. So after rook e2, she can no longer come to c2, but she can give this check. Actually, this check is a mistake, and I would say even I would go as far to say a decisive mistake, after which black can probably no longer save the game, even if the computer is showing only 0.50 advantage for white. But it's very difficult to defend further on when white starts attacking with both rooks. The point is that the queen becomes a little bit stranded here, and it can no longer go back to help the defense of the king or to protect some of the entry squares. So here probably the best was queen f6 or queen g5, so just to stay in the vicinity of the king and keep the contact with this pawn. So I don't know, if here f4 with this knight, sorry. So if f4 and you want to protect the knight, now probably already queen h4. No, and now the queen is infiltrating, and maybe there are some checks or something. So this would not be ideal for white. White will have to be much more patient and cautious to proceed this game, and this would be easier for black to defend. So yeah, so queen b1, amazingly, again, a move that probably most of us would play, is I would dare say decisive mistake. So king g2, let's see why. It will become apparent very soon. So h4, h5 is coming. So the idea is to simply h5, knight g6, rook d8, rook h8, checkmate. This is the brutal idea behind this move. So it's quite simple. That's why black plays g5. I know she wants to just open some space for her king. White took. In some cases, even h5, if you still want to insist on knight g6, would be possible. But she took. And now knight f3. So this pawn is now under attack. And black plays king g6. Again, this natural move is a mistake. This question mark is here with a reason. The point is that white plays rook e5, and now rook g5 comes up with a check. And that's the main difference. So whenever you play a game and you start, you have to move your king somewhere, just think about future checks. What checks could be there in the next couple of moves, and just try to estimate if those checks will be damaging for you, or you should prevent them, you should avoid them. I know it's a lot of abstract talk, but it's just something to keep in your mind. And sometimes it can help you, sometimes it will not help you, sometimes you even make a wrong decision, but still this is something to keep your mind on. Let's see why king h6. So now if rook e5, which is double attack against pawn and the knight, you can play with black, you can play queen c2, and now when she takes on g5 is no longer a check, and you have time to play knight e3, and this is the key move, because now you are threatening to take on f2. So rook h5, for example, check. Still, black has to be very careful and play. You always have only one good square for the king. If you play like quickly to king g6, you are running into a fork with this nice trick. So you have to be careful and to play king g7. And now on this check, again, you have to be careful, because if you play here, you run into checkmate. So the only move will be to go there. And now there are no more good checks for white. They can only repeat the moves, and you're threatening on f2. Probably white has to take a draw with perpetual. This would be great outcome for black. Of course, probably here white would play something else, not rook e5, not to allow this. Maybe she would play rook d6 here. This still keeps some edge, but it's not what she originally planned for. So let's go back to the game. So now we see, so okay, knight f3, king g6, the natural move, which is a mistake, rook e5. She plays now knight e3, but it's already too late. So now she takes on e6, actually, not on g5. So the knight is no longer protecting the pawn. That's the thing. And after this move, white has a lost checkmate. Exactly what we were warning about, to be careful, your king not to fall under attack of the joint rooks. And that's the checkmate. Okay, we spent a long time on this one game, so I will probably end the video here and save the other games for one of the next videos, maybe, because I have a couple of other interesting tactical motives to show. Okay, thank you everyone for watching, and have a great week.